Hello, Mavericks. Nice to see you here. This is Rob, and let's go ahead and jump into today, May 9th. Okay, so the markets had a big move up in the morning. They rallied overnight, and then the market opened in the US and it just tanked. I mean, the NASDAQ was up like 2.5%, and it went to up 0%. The S&P went from up 1% to down. It looked really ugly, and then it bottomed out, and then they brought it back up. And they brought it back up. And then by the end of the day, it had sold off again, leaving us some really ugly candles. So yes, this was an up day. Technically speaking, the SPX was up 0.25%. Cryptos, take a look at that gain on cryptos. People say, oh, that's a great gain on cryptos. No, it's not. They were up 8% earlier in the day. We're going to take a look at those long upper shadows on those. Oil and gold continue to get hit. So this is just everything's weak. And so when we take a look at the charts here, I just want to point out just how lousy this candle was. So we had this move, a lot of power, a lot of energy, and the market rallied overnight. And at one point was up nicely, and then it fell. I gave it all back and came back to here. So look, this was more of a pause day. This was more of a, okay, we had 3 days of heavy selling. We got a pause day. Anyone who was looking to try to be bullish here, this is a really, really disappointing candle. And if we take a look at the VT, the world index, the candles look just terrible. This is not what you like to see. Understand, we just went from 96 down to 88. That's an 8-point drop. That's about an 8% fall in 3 to 4 days. And the one day that the market has a little bit of buying, it gives it all up. It gives it all up. Again, like I said, just an ugly candle. Here are the cryptos. Now, we've been bearish for cryptos really since back here. But look, they fell off a cliff, big tumble here. And at one point, this was a big green candle, giving people some hope. By the end of the day, it had sold right back down. So we are still very bearish on cryptos. No reason at all to be long cryptos here. So our overall market outlook starting this week was a -3. We've been in a -3 for about 2 weeks now. Now, -3 is the most negative we can get on the equity markets. It's like the worst. And it only happens a couple of weeks out of the entire year that we're either at a +3 or a -3. This is one of those times where it's just really, really extreme. We talked about this over the weekend in our currency room. Whenever you get to these extreme levels, you do tend to get reversals. However, trying to time those reversals, it's a fool's errand. We just need to stay on the short side until we're proven wrong. Now, we've been on the short side. We've been looking for, again, long dollar, long yen, stuff like that. We need to just keep doing that. One point, we will get a rally. We will get a reversal candle and a confirmation. And then when that happens, we'll say, oh, let's start looking for more long bullish setups now that the market has turned a little bit. But until that point, it is just an ugly, ugly tape out there. Looking at the rest of the news for this week, tomorrow, this is going to be a big one, US CPI. So if any of you out there are longs and you are trying to be hopeful, well, I think this is your only hope. For some reason, if this CPI can come in lower than expected, I don't see how it can. We all know what's happening to prices. But if it does come out lower than expected, what that's going to do is going to signal the market that the Fed can let off the gas a little bit, that maybe they're not going to be as aggressive. If this number is as expected or higher, I don't think we're going to see a huge burst in the US dollar because the central bank can't get any more hawkish than they are right now. Like, they just can't. But I think you're just going to see more of the same. We've seen the dollar consistently moving up day after day after day. Really nothing else on the schedule this week of any importance. So let's see how the currencies did. If we take a look here on its face value, this looks great. Oh, look at cryptos. They had a decent day. No, they were all up over 8% earlier in the day. And this is how they closed. This isn't a good, this is just not good. So we remain bearish on cryptos. Over here in the foreign currencies, the trade we liked was Kiwi dollar. That was a trade we talked about over the weekend. We said this is the setup, and you can see it was the best trade out there right now. But I want you to take a look at the scaling on these. Look at these moves. These were not big moves today. So we had a pretty wild swing in equities. And granted, we did get some swings in the foreign currency market as well. But by the end of the day, everything had pretty much gone sideways. So really, Kiwi dollar was the best trade out there, and great job for those of you that grabbed it. But these low numbers tell me that right now, the Forex market is consolidating. It's not expanding, it's consolidating. When it consolidates, we want to make less trades. Let's take a look at everything piece by piece. Going to start off with crypto here. This is a 4-hour chart. We're looking at a 4-hour chart, and we're looking at our velocity score. So we're using the 13-period EMA as one of our inputs. We're looking at the parabolic SAR as another input, and we're looking at the RSI as another input. So the EMA is clearly pointed lower. The RSI is clearly pointed lower. We can see that we do have a pierce of the parabolic SAR. So this is not -3. This is only -2. We do not go long this until we get a +2 on our velocity score. Until then, we'll just sit and wait. We'll just absolutely sit and wait this out. Bitcoin Cash, same thing. This is a -2. You can see the parabolic SARs are the only thing giving you a mild buy signal, but there's so much against you, there's no way you could buy this. So Ethereum looks weak. There's no question about it. Going on to Litecoin, it looks the worst of all. It looks just really weak. In the cryptos, there's just no good news I have. If you are long cryptos, I'm sorry, but there's just no good news I have in the short term. Now look, when we do bottom out, we'll get a nice bottom, and I'm sure cryptos will do well then. But until then, it does not look good. Let's jump into our foreign currencies. Now this is the dollar. We liked the dollar over the weekend. We liked it last week, and it did great. We liked it over the weekend. Today it did great. These aren't big candles. We aren't racing higher here. The dollar is at 20-year highs. We do think the dollar is going to continue to chug forward, especially if we continue to be in a risk-off posture in the markets. So dollar is looking like a +2. We've got a flattened RSI. So really we just have rising EMAs and rising parabolic SARs. Next up to the yen. We talked about how the yen has not acted like a currency of safety like it usually has. Up until recently, it's kind of been dead, but it's been picking up. And we actually talked about the yen being a potential trade here, that we were going to get a flight to safety in yen. As you can see here, yen's got lots of momentum here. It's a +2 as well. We got RSI that's not really giving us any signal here. So we're at a +2 on yen. We take a look at Swiss franc. There is not much to look at. That's as flat can be. Flat moving averages, crisscrossing, parabolic SAR, RSI showing you nothing. It's telling you, don't trade franc. Don't trade it. So let's go to the euro. Let's see if the euro is showing us any different. Okay, now we are getting some good price action from the euro. The euro was another currency we did like this week on the long side. But you can see right here, right now, we're starting to see some weakness, at least on the short term. We're starting to see the RSI start to trend lower. We have a break below the parabolic SAR. We still have a rising EMA. So that's only giving us a +1. It's telling us, okay, the euro's taking a break. It just had a big run. It's going to take a break. We need to wait for that break to be over before we can look to get in it. Let's see if pound is showing us anything. Okay, you can see pound in the very, very short term is mildly higher. We have a slight moving EMA. We've got rising parabolic SAR. We've got a flat RSI. Look, there's just not a whole lot to get excited about. I'm going to give this a +1. Jumping over to the CAD. Now, the Canadian dollar was a nicely trending currency, but it wasn't moving with velocity. So it's had a big move up, but lately it just hasn't been doing anything. And you can see that we do have this pretty much sideways trend going on here. But in the very short term, when we take a look at CAD, we see that the EMA is trending lower, the RSI is trending lower, and we actually do have a parabolic SAR trending lower as well. In the short term, the CAD says, don't trade me. If you're going to trade me short, but you don't have to trade it because ultimately this isn't going anywhere. You can see it's sideways. So let's see if we can find something we actually do want to sell. And here is Aussie. And here we go. We're getting a nice candle pattern here. We got a big fall and we stopped going lower. Everything kind of flattened out. We're getting a low base here. Everything's flattened out. To me, this is a good looking short. Not here. This is likely to go sideways for the rest of the Asian session. But when it does break down, I think it's time to jump onto Aussie. So I do like Aussie short. And boy, the Kiwi's been the gift that kept giving, and it is just doing nothing. You know, it's going lower. So we like it here. Ultimately, let's call this a base. This looks more like a base than any sort of rally here. We think we're going to probably tread water here and then fall off somewhere in the, again, Asian session or European session. So when we look at the velocity score here, clear winners are the dollar and the yen. So you want to be looking for long dollar, long yen trades, especially if we get another overnight risk-off push. These are going to be great trades, and probably the yen is going to be better than the dollar this time. The yen is starting to pick up more velocity than the dollar. On the short side, I like the Kiwi still. I like Kiwi dollar short. I think that's a great trade. Kiwi yen short. The CAD is showing some -3 right now, but I don't really love it because it's in a sideways trend overall. So I'm going to step down to the Aussie at a -2 and say, hey, you know what? I'll pair up Aussie against yen and Aussie against dollar as well on the short side. So let's take a look at some of those pairs and let's take a look at some possible entry points. First up is Kiwi dollar. So Kiwi dollar was my favorite trade setup over the weekend, and it was a really nice one. You know, it made 40, 50, 60 pips on a move lower here. The only question I have at this point, it's clearly going lower. Look, it could always reverse, but it's clearly going lower right now. So I want to look to be short. The question is, where's the timing? And that's where it's starting to get a little tough here because, you know, we're getting a little bit of a support level down here at 62.85. 62.85 looks to be the support level. It is really anemic price action, though. I mean, it is really anemic. I would really love to see this base for, you know, let's give it a couple more hours and then a break lower. But if you want to set an alert, 62.85 would be the alert, or maybe even 62.80, the alert on Kiwi dollar to go short. So I like Kiwi dollar, but as I said, I actually do like the yen better. Now let's pair up the dollar versus the yen. Whenever you have a question saying, okay, which one's better right now? You simply look at the pair. So if you're looking at, okay, well, do I like Kiwi dollar or Kiwi yen better? Well, look, just pair up dollar yen and it will tell you which is the right one. So if we go back to this time period, the clear choice was to be long dollar over yen. And here, the clear choice is to be long yen over dollar. As you can see, we're starting to basically be equal here. Moving average has flattened out. Ultimately, I think it doesn't really matter here. At least there's no indication of which one's going to be stronger. The fact that the yen's been a little stronger lately gives my nod towards the yen. So let's take a look at Kiwi yen and looking at an entry point, and this looks very similar to Kiwi dollar. 81.70. 81.70 is where you should set your alerts. And boy, this is just a really ugly downtrend line. It's just, I do think we tread water here, go sideways, and then I think we fall off a cliff. So I do like Kiwi yen on the short side. Let's take a look at Aussie yen. Now again, let's ask that same question about what is the better short? Is it the Aussie or the Kiwi? So we pair those up together. And you can see here, back last week, the better short was the Aussie. the Aussie Kiwi went lower, meaning the Aussie was weaker than the Kiwi. About 24 hours ago, it looked like the Kiwi started to weaken and the Aussie started to strengthen, but ultimately, moving averages are going flat. There's no clear indication here. So if I had to give the nod here, I would still give the nod to the Aussie. It's been weaker lately. It's having a little bit of a bounce. If it turns back down, it's the clear one to short. So if that's the case, Aussie yen. And Aussie yen, what we're doing is looking at support levels. Let's call it 90. 90 is going to be the place. Set your alerts, set your orders. This is going to be the entry point, likely a low base that falls overnight. So in conclusion, the markets lost the rally today. It was just not a good thing for the market to do. It had it there. It had it once in the morning, strengthened, that fell apart, and then it gathered strength again and gave it all back. That is just not the behavior of a market that wants to go higher. So I think there's more downside ahead, which means dollar long, yen long, Aussie and Kiwi short, and avoid the cryptos. We had a very busy week last week with a ton of news where we had lots of live trading sessions. This week, we're only going to be having one live trading session. That's going to be tomorrow, the midweek update. The core is going to be with you. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.